so much for being willing to talk a bit about your journey through health content writing and specifically through the Health Professional Sales Writers Program.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Me too. So I would love to start out by just kind of laying the foundation and getting to know what made you interested in pursuing health content writing to begin with. I understand that you're a pharmacist, and so you come from that background. What is it that intrigued you about health content writing?
Well, actually, I don't think I ever told you this, but I followed you on social media for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And I kept seeing you and I kept watching you and I thought I was intrigued by what you were doing. And I thought, well, how's that working out? How is she making that work? And I wanted to know more about what you were doing. And I just really followed you and I followed your path and I was really enamored by it. Like I thought, wow, this is really neat. I love what she's doing. And had already been doing some writing, but the writing that I was doing was more technical in nature. So it's the sorts of things that I might write to another pharmacist or another nurse or another physician, but I had zero experience in expanding what I was doing so that I
Mhm.
could learn how to write to consumers. I didn't even know that was a thing or that I needed to form and develop a skill set so that I could learn how to write to consumers. So once I learned that that was actually something that could be done, that I wanted to sharpen and develop that skill set. So that's why I decided to reach out.
Awesome. So it sounds like that is what motivated you to consider health content writing, then also to enroll in the Health Professionals Health Writers Program. Is that correct?
Because I needed to know, is this real? Is she real? So I kept following in the background just to see if it seemed valid, and it
You know
was.
what's so funny? Yes, this is your first time telling me this, but having so for everyone's awareness, Stacey went through my last cohort, my seventh cohort of health professionals, health writers. And as I'm thinking through certain things that happened throughout that 6 months, you having followed me for 3 to 4 years and still being like, is this real? Is she real? Completely tracks with what I have experienced from you.
Yeah, I think that there are people who want to change or they want to develop or they want to grow, but they need to know that they can feel safe and
Mm-hmm.
that they're following a trusted mentor. And eventually I just kept watching and watching. And I thought, I think she's telling the truth.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so that I was able to convince you that you believed me and believed in me. And when you came into the program, because some people who come into the program, unlike you, don't have very much experience with any type of writing. And you were different in that you were kind of amidst the group of students who did have some writing experience, albeit a different type of writing. So how did you utilize or leverage those writing skills that you already had into learning this new style and new type of writing? Was it
Mm.
helpful for you to have that foundation, and how did you utilize that?
I think it was helpful only because had a since it's been so long since I was in pharmacy school, I did need to have something to kind of lean on to help me know what are credible sources, how do you format an article, how do you go about delivering information to people. So just the basic structure, I think, was the same, but I had quite a bit to learn, and I was really thankful to have such a good editorial process to help me learn and grow and develop. That perspective, it was helpful, but I still had a lot to learn about how writing to a consumer is different and the research process
Hmm.
in terms of making things SEO friendly. I just think there was a lot to learn. I had a lot of growth during this process.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. You shared a bit about the some of the concerns that you had prior to the program, i.e., like, am I legit? Am I a real person? Whatever. Are there totally understandable, by the way. Fair. I encourage anyone who's considering learning from someone or some organization to make sure they vet that person in that organization before they commit to that process. Like, very smart thing to do. I applaud you for that. Are there any other concerns you had prior to the program, whether they were about time? Okay, that was a big one for you. How did that concern, why was that a concern for you?
I think I remember asking you up front, what would the weekly time commitment look like? Just because my time period was the summer, I think maybe late summer, early fall into the holidays. It was really kind of a mixed bag of time. And that's a really busy time of the year for me. And I think once the holidays hit, it's also at the exact same time that the program really started to ramp up. So we needed to have really good time management skills. And quite honestly, I think having the program structured the way that it was, having the online modules, but then also having friends in the class, that really paid off. We still keep in touch. So that really paid off, just to have other people with similar challenges that might be related to time management and juggling lots of things. It was super helpful.
Yeah, one of the rewarding things for me was kind of seeing those friendships and those relationships grow and blossom throughout the program, because of course, like, there's lots that I have to teach you all to make sure that you're set up for success as health content writers. But to your point, I think there's a lot that we can learn from and share with each other. And y'all were so sharing and so open and so transparent. And I think that benefited the entire cohort in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do myself, because, this is a journey that I went through, 6-7 years ago, and you all are going through it now. So I really enjoyed seeing you all grow through that process together in particular.
It would be nice for you to have like a conference or a summit or a gathering for us to all meet, because we've still never met in person.
Yeah, that's so true. I'll have to write that down. That's like 2025, 26, not 24. But yeah, no, that's a good idea. I think that one of the questions that I also want to ask you is about maybe previous beliefs or misconceptions that you might have had about health content writing, or just writing for a consumer audience in general. Was there anything that you had like assumed or heard or thought about writing for consumers that you learned throughout the program was, maybe a little bit off, or maybe there was a different way of looking at things or doing things? Just any misconceptions or ideas that you had about consumer writing?
I think I came in as a blank slate. I didn't have any preconceived notions. But what I did learn that I might not have thought about previously was the importance of how things are structured. And there's a lot of care goes into creating an article that is both factual and relatable. And I never paid attention to the fact that we are writing in a way and such that would be relatable for someone to kind of really gather information in that way. I never paid attention to that. So I think it was more enlightening, more so than I had different preconceived notions, because I really didn't.
Yeah.
Blank slate.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, when you see what goes into it, and then you're able to kind of like identify that out in the real world too. Like when I come across, articles or blogs or social media posts or anything, I'm kind of thinking about, how it was put together and why they made decisions that they made, and kind of the inner workings. Whereas I think for a lot of people, a misconception is that, well, if I'm writing a blog, my first step is just to write, and then I might need to edit it, and then it's done. When in reality, there's a lot of strategizing and research that goes into that process.
Correct.
Care. I like that word that you used too. Going back really quick to the time thing, how did you manage your time through the accelerator? Like, what were some strategies that were effective for you?
Eventually we learned you might want to start your homework 3 days before it's due, 3 to 4 days before it's due.
Maybe not the day before, maybe not.
Eventually, we learned that you cannot whip this out at the last minute. You are going to need to block off several days or several blocks of time. And then we would just sort of text each other and say, hey, did you make time to do this? Did you see this part of the exercise? So I think that also lends itself, it's another really positive part of the program in that there might have been something that I missed. In fact, there were several times that I missed something that maybe Christina caught.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really good in that way because we're able to share. There's no competition. This is all about us all learning and becoming better. And so if one person saw something that the other person missed, it was really good to help say, wait, we only have another 24 hours. Make sure you get this done. So I eventually, and I'm not even the kind of person that waits till the last minute. I really, truly just had a lot going on at that time, but so does everyone.
Yeah, way to work together though. I love to hear that. Okay, so I have two more questions for you. I think two, if I don't have any follow-ups. One thing I would love to know, if you're just reflecting on your experience through the program overall, in what ways can you say that you experienced growth? And this could be like personally or professionally or in whatever ways you want to define that. In what ways did you experience growth during that program?
I think I remember the very first day that we all met and people introduced themselves. I remember thinking, I am the oldest person in this group. And I might not have been, I was close to probably being the oldest pharmacist in the group. So I think the first thing is it didn't really matter if I graduated 2 years ago or if I graduated 20 years ago. I was capable
Mm-hmm.
of succeeding and I still had the skill set, and if not, plenty of experience to leverage. So I think that was that was a major sticking point for me. Because I think that there are spaces that we can get into when you've been a pharmacist for a while that you might begin to think, I might be a little rusty in that area. Or maybe that person's a little sharper because they just got out of school and they might remember something that I don't. But honestly, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
You're just as good. If not, you have lots of experience to leverage. The other place that this will continue to grow, continue to give me growth. It's one of the main reasons that I decided to do this and to go through with it. It's sort of the other side of that coin. And that is, I don't know how long I'll be able to work in this capacity. But what I do know is I now have, because of this program, I now have sharpened this skill set or begin to develop this skill set. I have created a business around this that will continue to grow, that's independent of me being employed by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that I don't want my job, but I am at an age where I need to begin to think about what the next 10, 15, or 20 years will look like.
Mm-hmm.
Because the time span is getting a little bit shorter and we're getting closer to retirement. And I want to have the option of working without it being a requirement. So this also provides me with growth in that way.
Thank you for sharing that. One of the takeaways I hear that you're saying that's going to be really relevant to other people is you have to figure out what your own measures of success are and what your own desires are whenever you're taking on any new, working on developing. I'm sorry, the male person just brought a ticket to my door and then a dog ran up behind them and I don't know where that dog came from. I hope she's okay. To take this new skill set and figure out how you want to use it to design your life, right? Not everyone necessarily wants to like quit their job and start working in a business full time or, reduce their hours to 25%, and then like whatever it looks like for you, when you are taking on a new set of skills, that is what I encourage people to focus on as they're thinking about how they want to grow and what success looks like for them. It doesn't have to look the same across the board. It can be very tailored to your situation. And I think what you shared is a really good example of that and how you're thinking about what that looks like for you moving into the future. So thank you for sharing that. My last question is just more about you and your writing. So what kind of health content writer are you, and what kinds of clients are you most excited about working with moving forward?
Okay, so I decided to marry things that I was most interested in the past, along with an area that I had challenges in and still continue to have challenges in. So my focus area is obesity and things that are related to metabolic health. So that's my focus area. I'm excited to work with um, companies that are really passionate about delivering quality work. And I like to lean in a little bit on female health or obesity and metabolic health as it relates to women and
Mm.
even women over 40, because I know what that's like. But I'm open to working as long as it is a sound company that wants to deliver quality work. And I think I've always been that way. I like to work with other people or other companies or other institutions that have lots of integrity, and want to make sure that people are well educated
Yeah.
and taken care of. I mean, that's what I'm open to.
I wholeheartedly agree and support that, especially in the niche that you're in, and with the amount of types and a growing number of companies that work in that space. There are definitely, it's definitely worth distinguishing, right, between that are in it for certain reasons, versus those that have some integrity about them. So I completely understand where you're coming from there. Anything else you want to share before we depart? Any like parting words of wisdom or advice for folks who might be considering the program in the future?
I think the most important thing is someone's been watching you for 3 years on the sideline, like I was, is that there's nothing to be afraid of. And I also think it's important for people to know that you're an exceptional mentor, that you're very kind, but then you also have a way of encouraging and pushing us to be uncomfortable, but only to a space that it helps us to grow.
Mhm.
And it's super important that in this year and then like all the years to come, that we do surround ourselves with people who will make us a little bit uncomfortable so that we can grow. Because I don't want to be the same person in 5 years that I am today. I hope to see something different in a
Mhm.
good way.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about it, get in.
Thank you, Stacey. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure to work with you and the entire cohort 7. And I look forward to staying engaged with y'all and seeing how you progress over the next several years.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your support. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Of course.